Hey, everybody. We'd like to welcome you to our Counterpoise podcast. We have a really good topic for you, but before we dive in, I want to go ahead and introduce myself, and the fellows going to introduce themselves as well. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Samantha Adams. Guys,
Hey, everybody. My name is Malik Foster, another co-host for the Counterpoise podcast.
And I am Everett Stevenson, your third co-host of the Pound Poise Pod. So today we have a good topic that we want to discuss. And it looks into the nuances between a female moving in her masculine energy versus an alpha female. We've been hearing a lot of debates about, women having to be masculine, versus questions of, is a woman maybe moving? Is she just an alpha woman? Is she just a leader versus her being in a masculine energy? So today we wanted to kind of go into some of the discussion between the two, define what the definitions are between two of those, give some definitions and examples of two examples, and then also maybe look at how that functions into relationships as well. So we want to go ahead and go into some of those definitions now.
yeah. So, one of the definitions I found for an alpha female, right? We're going to focus on that first. An alpha female is a female that's strong and successful, who publicly embraces her leadership skills. Common alpha female traits include high levels of confidence, assertiveness, and ambition. And to be an alpha female, work on defining and achieving your goals, communicate openly, and set boundaries to protect your time and your energy. So that's typically the definition of an alpha female. When I think of an alpha female, I think of a leader, right? I'm thinking of a business owner, right? Somebody who runs her own business. She's a boss chick. You see what I mean? Like, she really handles her business. She's not really being moved by a whole lot of outside noise. Like, of course, she takes things into consideration, things like that, but she got to handle her business. And she's assertive. She knows what she wants, and so she goes to do what she has to do. And oftentimes, alpha women are leaders, And so before we get into, masculine energy, I'm just curious, from Malik and Everett, when you hear the term alpha female, what do you think of?
Comedy. No, I'm just talking shit. No, I'm just playing. I don't think it's comical, but to me, being frank, I almost kind of feel like it's a term that kind of sort of doesn't need to be there. I think, when you talk about being a leader, I think that kind of encompasses most of the things that's kind of described when we talk about alpha females. So in my mind, it's just, being able to say that this is a woman who has leadership qualities. So, to make it seem like it's alpha female, like, I don't know, it kind of just seems like it's something that spurred from the whole, oh, there's alpha male and all of this whole alpha male talk, and how people were like, oh, men do this and that makes them an alpha and all of that. Versus, and again, same type of thing. It's just like, okay, so you guys are going to say that these are some of the more leadership men that maybe, are a little bit more brass, a little bit more vocal, that maybe, are out front and a little more bold in with their leadership styles. So, if that's what the translation is, seemingly with the female, then okay, I guess I get it. But ultimately, though, I think that these are traits that when we describe these type of things, these are things that I think that all good people should have, right? You should have a sense of direction. You should have the ability to not only listen and lead, but also be able to have a mind to think and also perceive what's going on. So, to me, it's like these are basic traits, but I understand that everybody isn't raised necessarily the same, and everybody doesn't necessarily be exposed to the same type of things. So what may seem normal to some may be considered to be abnormal to others.
Yeah, so alpha female, when I think about an alpha female, I think about dominance, right? Because if you think about nature, and when we think about like alpha males, if we're going to make the comparison to illustrate the point, right? We think about somebody who's going to be leading regardless, dominant regardless of anybody else that's present. So I do think it's possible, but very rare for a female to be alpha in every situation, right? Maybe she could be an alpha amongst the females, right? Set the example, the leadership amongst the females, but when you include the men in the room, I think it's going to be hard for her to be that alpha and that presence just because of the way things are set up from a society standpoint and from just a physical standpoint and just from a society building standpoint. Like, it's very rare that you'll see, not that it doesn't happen, women in part of leadership, doing the most dangerous tasks, difficult things such as war, such as dangerous jobs with like scaffolding stuff, those oil rigs, any like, the ice truckers, people who are going to deliver supplies at dangerous areas, hard to reach areas. You rarely see a mass group of women doing those things. But I do think when it comes to alpha women, they can exist, but I think in very maybe limited circumstances and situations. I think it's hard for an alpha female to exist in every like area. Like they're just like, hey, I'm just an alpha person in all areas. I think that's very difficult for me to say that a female would be because by most females' natures, to my understanding, I think it would be counterproductive for them to always be an alpha in every situation.
So when I think of an alpha, I think of a leader. I think anybody has the ability to be a leader, right? Um, and so do I believe that women can be alphas? Yes, I do, because um, I also believe that a good leader also has the ability to delegate. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that because she's a leader, she's doing everything. It just means she's leading towards whatever, right? It doesn't necessarily even mean that she set the rules. It just means she's leading. She's the one that, and sometimes she has to be assertive in order to get her group, whether it be her family, whether it be her business. Most often it's business, right? To move forward, because you, especially in male dominated fields, right? Women have to be assertive. Like, okay, let's take lawyers. All three of us are lawyers. I'm the only female on this panel, right? And sometimes I have to be very assertive in order to be able to get my point across. It's like that in the field as well. Now, it's different with Malik and E because we went to law school together. We've known each other for quite some time. They're my brothers. I'm their sister. You see what I'm saying? So we have a special level of respect for one another. But when you're in a male-dominated field where you have men that don't have any respect for you because you're a woman, you do have to move a certain way. You see what I mean? Especially as a Black woman. And it can be very daunting, but it is what it is, because this is what we sign up for, and so I think a lot of times that assertiveness gets misplaced as being masculine. Just to stand up for what you believe in doesn't necessarily make you masculine. Just to be firm in how you feel about something doesn't make you masculine. How you manage that potentially could be portrayed as masculine, though. You know what I'm saying? And I think that one of the points that you made, Malik, I think that as it relates to just females in general, and when I say females, I don't necessarily mean always humans, right? I mean, because not for nothing, okay, even if we are talking about it, there have been all-female militaries in Africa. You see what I'm saying? There have been all-female villages. There have been villages that have been led by women. You see what I'm saying? And they have flourished. It's not like there was like they failed just because the leader was a woman, right? And she had to move a certain type of way. when you're talking about elephants, right? Some of the most dangerous elephants in the world have a female at the helm. You see what I mean? And that makes her an alpha. So like a spotted hyena, an orca whale, elephants, lemurs, things like that. Like, those are all packs of animals that are run by females, led by, let me not say run by, but led by females, because being run and being led are two very different things. And I think that in looking at that, it's important to understand the difference, to know what masculine energy is. Do I think that there are alpha females that function in their masculine energy? Absolutely. I think that in order to really be in a male dominated space, sometimes women have a hard time of turning it off. Some of the characteristics of functioning in your masculine energy typically has somebody that's goal oriented, somebody that's assertive, right? Focus. Being assertive is a common trait between both the masculine energy and the alpha. Being very focused and action oriented. In order to be able to be a good leader, you have to have those qualities. But that doesn't necessarily mean men. Sometimes people, let me not say men, sometimes people, I think, mistake assertiveness with aggression, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why, because men typically are aggressive, right? Women typically are not aggressive, or they're not supposed to be, right? That's the difference. One of the differences between functioning in your masculine versus your feminine energy. And I think that a lot of times people misplace women's assertiveness with aggression, and then it turns into, oh, she's being masculine. Don't get me wrong. Like I said before, there are absolutely women that are functioning in the masculine energy, but they won't allow a man to be a man. They'll demasculate that man. They will not allow him to take care of her, and she help him, as opposed to the other way around. Like, she would rather be the one taking care of everything, and he, fall in line. And that when you're talking about relationship, I think it has to be different. It's one thing to be one way at work versus how it is when you come home. Like, I was watching something, I can't remember what I was watching. It was on somebody's social media. I don't remember who said it. But they made the point of saying that, when a man comes home, he has to turn certain stuff off, in his brain and how he's moving. He can't be how he is out there in the world the same way when he comes into the house. Women have to understand the same thing, especially when you're talking about an alpha woman. And I think that one of the problems is that alpha women often don't know when to turn that off. So I just wanted to get you guys' take on that as it relates to the masculine energy.
Well, I would more so say I don't necessarily think that it would be a characteristic of an alpha woman that's having the problem, as I think it is someone that maybe is moving more in their masculine energy that would have more of the problem. Because I think, like, if you're an alpha, then you should be able to, like, understand roles, understand, guidance and all. If your home structure is set up a different type of way where that's the role that you play, okay, that's that. But if your structure is one in which, you're not asked to be that in the home, then I think that they should be able to understand and be able to come up with, they should be able to understand and be able to come up with some type of understanding as to how the home should function, as opposed to, how I function in the day-to-day world. Whereas I think that that's a little bit harder, like you said, for a woman that's been more so used to moving in her masculine, because it challenges her, right? Is now requiring her to relinquish some of the things. And this is another big thing I think that comes within this too. Women love control. You know what I'm saying? They love to be in control of maybe what their situation is. They want to know exactly what's going on, how it's going. All of those things are elements that women like to have, whether it allows them to feel more powerful or whatever the case may be. Maybe they can feel like they don't necessarily have to have fear of certain things because they have an understanding as to what's going on. And I think that when you take that away from a woman in the sense of not necessarily having to be in control of everything, that there's like a level of anxiety that takes place, because there is there's like a level in which you lose the level of control of over every situation, and now you're relying on someone else's decision-making skills. And I think that frightens a lot of women, because it's like, well, I don't know if what you got going on is going to be something that's going to be continuously going on, or is it just a right now type of situation? So I need to keep myself ready, because yeah, you might have hold me down right now, but who knows what tomorrow might bring. And I understand that. But I think that, you know what I'm saying? I think that it also will require that, and this is a little bit off to the left, but I think that if you happen to choose the type of person that has already shown in their own life that they have certain qualities, that they have certain discipline, that they have certain structure and certain foundations in their life, then that should ease some of those tensions that you may have in allowing this person to continue to lead as they have already done and displayed in their own life. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's when you're allowing people to have positions of leadership and they have not shown any type of level of leadership qualities, but they're trying to tell you that they want to lead you, then I understand why you could be a little more apprehensive, because it's like, well, where have you ever led? Where have you ever, you know what I'm saying? And that would require somebody to get more into their masculine. That would require somebody to be more, be more masculine. And so in those situations, I kind of understand it a little bit more, but I also think that, like, when you're dealing with a different quality of individual, then some of that stuff should not be displayed. And I think, we were going to talk about that in a little bit, but that's just some of the little disparities that I think takes place.
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of jump in here and talk about the masculine energy component that Sam had proposed to us. So what masculine energy brings, I would say it brings structure, it brings stability, it brings safety, solution-oriented energy, somewhat solvency, right? Because you have to be solvent, have some resources, and an important thing, structure. It usually brings structure because, even when women are in leadership positions or, in their alpha energy, I don't think they bring all those same things. It doesn't hit the same as it when a man brings it. I think it just doesn't. I'm not saying they can't be alpha or a leader or anything, but I just don't think they can bring the same thing as an alpha man does. So in that situation, when the men come into play, you can't be an alpha female if in that situation, right? If a male alpha comes in and you're alpha female, you're not going to be alpha anymore. That's one thing I think that's going to happen because, like E said, there's only could be one. You had mentioned that, E, and I agree. It can only be one. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with, sometimes as a leader, you have to learn how to follow, right? And, you can't always have multiple people trying to lead at one time because you're not going to get anything done. So that's where the structure comes into place. And I think men do a better job of instilling that in men's and women's lives than women do. That's just my opinion. Sam, you're welcome to kind of push back on that opinion, but that's something I was thinking I wanted to say about it. You want to go ahead, Sam?
So I have pushback for both of you. First, with Everett, you said women feel the need to be in control. That is 100% not true. Women would actually prefer to give those reins to somebody else. Now, let me explain. If you have a woman that's moving in a way where she feels the need to be in control, it's because she doesn't feel safe. That means that man has not created an atmosphere for her to relinquish that control, right? Because a woman is not a woman is always going to be resistant when she doesn't feel comfortable or safe about where you're taking her. You see what I'm saying? So
I think that she also, I'm sorry, my bad, go ahead.
I think that it's important to understand that. Like, I think a lot of times men think that because a woman is asking a lot of questions, it means that she needs to have control. It doesn't necessarily mean that. A while back, like when we first started doing our podcast, we talked about the views of men versus women and how men typically are very tunnel vision, right? They see what they're going after, and that's what they go. But a woman as a helpmate has a tendency to look at all the things that are going on the outside, right? So that she can say to that man, hey, look, you might want to look out for this one. I see that. Maybe you want to try that. You know what I mean? So that she can help him along that path. And I think being informed, because also too, you have to remember, it's a woman's job to make sure that her man and her family are taken care of and that they're safe in a different way from a man, right? She has to nurture them. You can't appropriately nurture somebody if you don't know what they have going on. You can't appropriately be present and supportive of somebody if you don't know what they're doing. You see what I'm saying? You cannot, you're literally going into something blind. And even though you may be willing, very ready and willing to not have all the details, knowing basic details and foundational details to be able to be appropriately nurturing and appropriately supportive to your mate, that's one of the reasons why women ask questions. And also, two, women ask more questions when they are unsure about where you are bringing them. So I think a lot of times that doesn't register to men. They just see, was she asking me all these questions? Would she want to do it? And it's like, nah, it's not that. I do agree with you, though, when you said, something to the effect of, what was it? It was more so about guidance, right? And how some women have been forced to have to take on those roles of taking care of their business, right? Because they don't feel safe. I 100% agree with that. But I don't think it's that women have a need to be in control of everything, right? Women have to be in control of the things that they're supposed to be in control of, but they have to feel safe to relinquish control to the things that they're not supposed to be. So if you're in that type of a relationship where, you are allowing your man to lead because that's what you chose to do, like that was what y'all talked about. That was, you know what I mean? Just like E said, it's important to understand that man has to create that space, right? I saw something else where a pastor was talking about the man sets the tone and the woman sets the atmosphere. So if he has allowed her to see what it is that we're doing, right, which is the structure that Malik is talking about, I think men have to understand that in order for her to be comfortable to create a space of peace and nurturing and things like that, turn that house into a home, she has to feel safe in doing it. And then the pushback I had for you, Malik, was women can't bring structure the same way that men can. Women are not going to bring structure the same way men can, because men and women are different. We're not equal. Our way of thinking is different. I don't think that men do it better. I just think men do it differently. You see what I'm saying? Do I think that there are some women that do not offer structure? Absolutely. Just like I think that there are plenty of men out there that are completely disorganized. You see what I mean? I think that, that's an individual thing, but it is a man's job to create that structure. I don't disagree with that statement that you made, but I do not necessarily think that men do it better. I just think that they do it different. So that was my pushback as it relates to that. Then there was another thing. There was one other thing. Oh, leadership roles, right? I think that in a relationship, because men and women have different roles, I think that women lead and men lead, but men are at the helm. They're at the forefront. They're in the front. A woman is following him, but she's leading in a different way because she is the one that regulates all of the things that's going on inside of that household. He's creating the house, and she is making the home. You can't make a home without being able to lead, whether it be having some sort of leadership qualities, right? Well, you can't do that without being able to say, hey, we're going to keep this clean. This is going over there. I got to get the kids to make sure this is taken care of. She is the gears inside that house. You see what I'm saying? So he gets the parts and she's the gears. And I think that I think that it's just she's leading from behind, and I just think it's a different way. So with that, I do personally think that there is a such thing as an alpha female, but I do also think that some alpha females function too heavily in their masculine energy, because let's not get it twisted. All women have masculine energy, just like all men have feminine energy, right? It's part of the balance, right? It's like that yin and yang, right? Because if men didn't have feminine energy, that would be equivalent to say that men don't have compassion, they don't have empathy, and that's not true at all. Men have feelings, men care, all that stuff. You see what I mean? Men can nurture, they have the ability to do those things. And so I think that some women, especially Black women in today's society, going all the way back to like the slavery days with the Willie Lynch letter. We have another podcast on that. Y'all go check that out too. Especially Black women, we have been forced to be hyper independent. And then as society has gone on, how they've taken Black families up and put Black men in jail and all that stuff. Go check those podcasts out, please. Because we go deeper into that. I think that today, when you're looking at that, women have been forced to be in this hyper independent space. And so they struggle with, they may be ready and willing to let go of that control, but they might not know how, because generationally, they may struggle with it because nobody's ever shown them how. Right. So I think that, and it's not true for all women, let's just be clear, but I do believe it's true for some. So, is there such thing as an alpha female? Yes, but I do think that some alpha females function too heavily in their masculine energy and don't know when to turn it off.
All right. So yeah, I just want to go quickly and just give a little bit more pushback to my pushback. In particular, I think you made a statement of saying like, women have the like all women can, be leaders. And I do agree that, there's different elements in the relationship that you're going to have in which a man may defer to your decision making. But ultimately, like, and I think the other thing was really in the control aspect. You're like, women don't want to be in control. I still disagree with that. I think women want guys that they can control. They want a man that's going to take care of things. You say that you don't, but in all honesty, I think that there really is like a desire that is there, because it's like if that man does something that you don't feel like is okay or whatever, you get mad. Things don't necessarily work out. You feel some type of way. You want to go ahead and leave. But it's like, but if you was to really truly care about the structure, the family, the one to have everything kind of be together, you know what I'm saying? Then you wouldn't necessarily look at it and say, because I'm not getting what I want from him in this moment, it's time for me to up and leave. That's the level in which there's like, you want to run the situation. You do. Like, that's why they say guys
That's not even what I'm talking about at all.
Oh, okay. Well, I just want to make sure, because when I'm talking about the control, that's what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about the control, I'm talking about it from the standpoint of, it's like, I want this man to create a level of safety, but then once he creates that, I want to be able to run that household. If that means that I want to cook because I feel comfortable in here, then I mean I want that nigga to bring me some cooks in here. If it means that I don't want to necessarily be one changing all these diapers solely, then that means that I want not only just want your help in it, but I also might want a nana or an aide or something. Like, there are still ways in which women are going to want to try to like have it set up, have their home set up how they want it to be ran, and not
everybody.
I understand everybody wants the house to be ran how they want the house to be ran. Totally agree. But what I'm going to say is if you're going to ask this man to provide a level of safety for you to be in the environment, then and he provides it, then it looks like it's like 9 out of 10 should
so that
he is asking, because
I think
he's providing this
safety. Hold on. When you say safety, I'm asking you a question though, because you said safety. What are you referring to? Like literally feeling free from harm, or do you mean comfortable?
All of it, from harm, from economic stress, from mental abuse, like all of it. If this man is somebody who is, and this is why I think that we look at the time when women get guys who are good guys, they kind of shy away from that. They kind of push away from it. They call it a pushover. They call it, you know what I'm saying? He's too sweet. He's too soft. I need someone who may challenge me. This guy is a yes man. Like, it sounds good. Yeah, it sounds real good. I want somebody that's going to be loving and supportive. But that's not what I don't want to say the streets, but it's not what we've seen to see happen. We've seen examples of men who have been great husbands be ran over by women. Men.
Okay, but we're not talking about that though. What we're talking about, because you said if a man is creating a space where she feels safe and her time and free from stress was one of the examples that you gave, and she's saying, I need help, and he won't provide that, that's not making somebody feel safe, right?
How do you need help if you don't have
I'm
no
about
stress?
to tell you. Let me finish what I'm saying. The reason why I say that is because if I say, listen, I require this, 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 and this, and you say, okay, I'm going to provide this, 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 and this, and when it comes time to deliver, you're saying, I'm going to give you 3 out of 5, even though in the beginning you said you were going to provide 5 out of 5, then you didn't do everything. You didn't meet all the requirements. So if you say, listen, free from stress, for example, that was one of the examples that you gave. And then she has a baby and she's like, look I need help with this kid. Can you change the baby's diaper? Can you get up this time to go feed the baby? And he's like, nah, all that's your job. All that's your womanly duties and all of that. Guess what? All he just did was create a new space for more stress, because now at this point, she's doing everything alone when she's asking for help. She's literally saying, hey, I need help. And as a provider, he's supposed to provide assistance when she asks for it. Just like as a helpmate, when he's saying, I need your support, I need you to help me, I need you to do this, she's supposed to go do that. So when they get into that agreement to say that this is how we're going to move forward, the minute you start seeing resistance is because somebody is not doing what they originally said that they were going to do. Typically, that's when you see any type of resistance from anybody. Because even with women, they'll be like, yeah, I'm about this. Yeah, I'm nurturing. Yeah, I'm loving. I'm kind. I'm all this. I'm all that. I'm supportive. And then let's say every time that man has a business idea, she tells him it's stupid. It's weak. Why are you doing that? She's questioning everything that he's doing. That's not her being supportive. That is her. She might be resistant because of her own fears, but she's also not exercising in her feminine energy because she's not being supportive to that man, especially when she says that she's always supportive and she's never supportive. So I think that a lot of times people have to look at the bigger picture. You can't say that you're going to provide something, and then when I say I need X, you like, nah, I'm not providing it. Then you're not providing. So now I'm looking at you funny as a man because you're not doing the thing that you said that you would do as an alpha male, a masculine male, the leader of the house, somebody that I'm supposed to, release everything to and follow, because you just got finished telling me my need doesn't matter.
I don't know if y'all guys are gonna let me jump in here real quick. Yeah, I was gonna say, just to your point of the providing part, I was just gonna say, if a man says he can't provide, that's one thing, but if he refuses to provide for certain reasons, I think that's another thing. So I'm just going to leave it at that, like saying, hey, I don't want to provide because of this, that, and the third. It's not best for me to give you what you want right now, because it kind of leads me into the structure thing that you were saying. Why I think men provide better structures, because one, you made the point, well, it's a man's job. Society pushes that on us to provide that structure for a lady. A woman expects that from us. And we don't necessarily expect the structure from a woman, right? Maybe structure in a different way, but not a structure in what we sense like, hey, my life is kind of, I really need a man to kind of fill that void. Everything is kind of like, not as organized as I would like. And, there's a lot of women who are career women, right? Doing their thing, making that money, right? Because everything's not just about money, but sometimes they might have bad habits because they're missing something, right? So that man fills that gap, right? That masculine energy fills that gap that you need to solidify what you wanted to solidify. So when I mean by structure, I'm talking about the solvency, so financial aspects. I'm talking about safety. You can feel safe, physically, literally feel safe, economically feel safer because, there's another income coming in, there's somebody providing for you, stuff like that. And that's not an expectation of a woman. So I really believe, a man's going to just do a better job at structure because of society standards, expectations from the woman herself, and their peers, right? So if a man's not on top of his game, his peers aren't going to respect him and status, and that's very important for a man to do. So it's a multiple things motivating a man to provide, structure, safety, all
Hold
of
on, you
these
said
things.
that's not
And I do
expected of
one
men.
last thing, and
What are
I'll
you
let you
referring?
jump in
No,
real
no, I'm
quick.
asking you a quick question for
Oh,
clarity from
go
something
ahead.
you just said. You said that's not something that a man is expected to do. What are you referring to?
No, I didn't say there's
Oh,
those things
okay. I must have
are. Oh,
misinterpreted
okay.
you.
You must have misheard. Yeah, I didn't say there's nothing. Yeah, 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 yeah. And and the point that you were making, I think a lot of people, and especially women in society, always judge a lot of men based off the failures, right? There's always going to be failures in every like area, right? There's going to be failures as like men, right? Men fail, and there's men that other men and women will deem like you failed as a man. You're not doing your job. So I think people judge too much on the failures, but don't look at like the overall big picture. Like this is what good men provide to you. You always say, "Oh, I meant this failure." Like, yes, he failed. You dated a person who's failing or has failed, or you're associating yourself with that. Just like, you can't judge women based off of the failures of the women, but you can base it off of, your normal encounters of your anecdotal evidence. But I don't think you should just say, hey, men are like this because you're judging them based off of their failures. So I think too many people harp on the point of the men and women that have failed. And I guess in this case, we're talking about the men. So, too many people point that out like, oh, the man's not doing this, the man's not doing that. Yes, the failures are not doing it. But what about the good men that are being passed up? What about the good men that are displaying those traits? And if they're not choosing you, sometimes you got to think, what am I doing wrong or not right? Or what can I do to change to get what I want or what I need? So I think that's something that people need to really think about.
And just making space. The last little thing that I would add is just making space for those individuals that you claim that you want to have in your life so that you can be ready to receive it. And that's all I got in closing.
Yeah, and have grace for one another. You know what I'm saying? Because even based on what Malik was just saying, nobody is perfect, and nobody knows what they're doing. Like, as much as we sit around and we try to pretend like we got it all figured out, nobody has it figured out. We're all trying to figure it out as we go. And so it's important to have grace for one another, because if we're all growing and we're trying to be better people for ourselves and for one another, we got to have some sort of grace. And so with that was what I had for closing, and my closing thought. And then the book of the month is Soul of Black Folks by W.E.B. Du Bois. It was another book last week, but I couldn't find the link. So, and that book is called Manifest by, if anybody can ever find it, it's called Manifest by Kadesh Sims Conroy and Tamika Bridwell. But the book that we're going to be advertising for the remainder of the month is called The Souls of Black Folks by W.E.B. Du Bois. Y'all please make sure y'all go get that. And then the Black business of the month is called The Harlem Chocolate Factory. It's right over there. It's right up there on Adam Clayton Powell in New York. It is two young ladies from Spelman who created their own chocolate factory, and it's opened up right there in New York in Harlem. It's called the Harlem Chocolate Factory. So y'all make sure when you're in the Harlem area, y'all go check that out, and then slide through the Apollo if you can. Other than that, we want to thank each and every one of you for tapping in with us. Thank you so much for your continued support. We really appreciate it. If you have any topics that you'd like to talk about or you'd like for us to talk about, please feel free to reach out to us. You can DM us on Instagram, Facebook, or even, email us. You can also, if you want to be on the show, please feel free to reach out to us the same way. And make sure you tap in with us every Wednesday, where we do our What's Up Wednesday on Instagram. I am also on the Tagged app, My name on tag is Sam, SAMMIYAMM. So y'all can come through, come see me there. And also, too, we are on TikTok, Counterpoise Podcast. So y'all make sure y'all come holla at us there, too. So we everywhere. Our socials are going to be, tied in at the end. And we look forward to seeing y'all next week. Fellas, did y'all have anything that you wanted to add?
Peace, love, and soul.
Peace, love, and soul.
Yeah. Make sure if y'all guys want us to discuss any type of topics, just shoot us a message on either Instagram or YouTube or whatever.
Yeah. So y'all go ahead on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, tap that button, all that, and come back and see us now. Be good to each other, and we'll see y'all later.
All right, guys. Peace.
Peace.